Roshini Rajkumar is an executive coach, host here at WCCO. Real Talk with Roshini. She's on the CenterPoint Energy Home Service Plus hotline. Roshini, how you doing?
I am pretty well, Cory. It's great to be on with you today.
It's good to catch up. What did you think when you heard about the stimulus package yesterday and that the House Democrats are pushing it forward and that it sounds like there's going to be resistance in the Senate from the Republicans?
Yeah, well, you see the headlines, $3 trillion. It's just a lot of money. And I think sometimes people forget that money doesn't just fall out of the sky. That's taxpayer money. So while the government is not collecting taxes in some areas, as you know, student loan debt interest has been halted for several months, all these other areas where taxes are not coming in at the local, state, and federal level, that helps people. But at the same time, that's some of the money that goes into these sort of stimulus situations. So it's our money. And, no matter where you are politically on this, I'm just really a pragmatist. I don't know that we have bottomless pits. We don't, as the American public, to pay for all these aid packages. So if there is going to be an aid package, there really needs to be some common sense behind it. And we already have problems with some of the earlier aid packages. Congress people like Minnesota's Dean Phillips is now working on legislation to sort of fix what happened with some of the first ones, including those PPP loans. And we saw a lot of headaches that came out of that situation, whether it was not the right companies getting the money or some companies getting it was too much money. They didn't really need it. We heard, the Harvard Foundation got money. All of these different things. Let's look at what you already did, Congress, and some of that was messed up. Do you want to do it again?
Yeah, I'm just glad the L.A. Lakers got their cash because I don't know how they'd survive without that $5 million they got.
Exactly. My point. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I get very nervous. Doesn't matter which party is leading the way or fighting. I get really nervous because those $3 trillion, that's taxpayer money. That's the working American people. It's our money.
And you're right on. It's not a bottomless pit. It's a lot of money. And yes, we have had so many issues. So do you think, and this was pointed out in an article that I read, that this was in ABC News, that some sources have pointed to them at ABC News that they think it is Democrats grandstanding. The sources were unnamed, so we don't know. But what do you make of that?
Yeah, I hate unnamed sources, but I don't even know that we need those kinds of sources to see that this is some grandstanding. Remember, this is the 2020 presidential election year, and many campaigns, whether it's for president or other offices like in Congress, they can't really be out there like they would at the parades and the different things like that because so much of the country is shut down or slowly coming back to life. So this is one way they can be in the headlines. They can be on TV, on the radio, touting different things. And so it is never shocking to me, Cory, when this kind of stuff then becomes political. But we have to ask ourselves, we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's confusing information coming out from the scientists. We need to wrap our brains around that, do the right thing as a country and for our economy. And so we don't really need politicians to get so political and self-interested right now. That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Is this in self-interest or is it for the country's interest?
Yeah. She's Roshini Rajkumar. Speaking of self-interest, we've seen the president. He's been out there a lot now. Look, crisis communication takes many, many forms, and I don't think that you can over-communicate a message, in a time of crisis. But we've seen a lot of funny stuff happen. We've seen back and forth with reporters. We've seen just a lot of odd stuff. What do you make of what is going on right now with the Trump administration and the White House and what they're doing? Oh, and the other one, too, with the back and forth with Dr. Anthony Fauci, where he says one thing, they say another. It just seems like we're hearing a lot of different voices now.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because at first, President Trump was very much all about Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci was prominent at those daily press briefings that President Trump would give, and he stopped doing those daily briefings, which I think it was a good idea to stop doing them. I think it's a good idea to have the White House press secretary conduct anything like that that's a regular kind of address to the nation. But it's so cantankerous that Dr. Fauci is then in front of a Senate committee. So there are people out there that want Dr. Fauci to speak and share his information, but it happens in a Senate hearing versus as connected to a White House press briefing or other kind of White House communication. Just kind of bottom line crisis communication 101. You want transparency, but you also have to be very much in control of who the messengers are and what they are going to say. And you don't want to see conflict coming from your own part of the messaging structure. And we've seen a lot of conflict coming from the administration. So it could be his people that say something, and then the very next hour or the next day, he contradicts it or says something different. So those are the kinds of things that unfortunately have been part of President Trump's presidency even prior to the pandemic. But during a pandemic, it's even more important. We are truly in a crisis situation, and messaging needs to be really on point. So I give him credit for not being in a daily press briefing, but I will never be excited about his tweets and the mixed messaging and some of the emotion that he throws out there with really no guidance.
Yeah, I think he's been trying to fire Dr. Anthony Fauci, get him put him in the back seat, and so we don't hear from him as much. And I think that they're trying to do that. I just don't think that they're able to right now. He's everywhere. Everybody's talking to him. Let's change. Let's get off topic. Let's get off political topics here for a minute. This has been so incredibly sad to me, the Ahmaud Arbery case in Georgia, where the two white guys basically chased him down and shot him. They claim they thought he was a burglar. He wasn't even armed. I don't understand, Roshini, how this is just coming to light right now because it happened in February. It is so horrible and unbelievable to me.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's definitely unbelievable. But now more and more details are coming out about why there was roughly a 10-week gap between the occurrence and the arrest. And, even to the point of that video, which really grasped the nation, that person who shot the video was being investigated. And then when you see there are various prosecutors that have either pulled themselves off the case or been thrown off the case, that just does not say a lot. It is not a good thing when that very county is being investigated and now it's moving into a different county. Prosecutors are working on the case. So we are supposed to be in a country that everyone gets justice, and the people who are killed or who die can't speak for themselves. And so the system is set up to speak for them. So there are a lot of gaps in this Georgia situation. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I wish I did, but it definitely does not look like things are very clear and definitely not transparent there. So I can only imagine what's going to come out next out of Georgia. But now that it is being investigated, I hope we can get some true answers.
Yeah, the law, Roshini. Of course, I don't. What would be a defense for these two guys? Even if you thought, which he wasn't, but even if you thought he was a burglar, in what world do you get to get in your car, run down somebody, and kill them? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the thing is, there are some citizens arrest statutes in different states, and maybe some states it's ruled by case law, but normally you need to really have some sort of witnessing that a crime is happening, or that this is a known perpetrator. And I just don't think these two defendants really have that on their side, at least from what I've seen, that they can say it was some sort of citizens arrest situation and then Ahmaud turned on them. Because from what I've read, Ahmaud Arbery was not armed. So it's hard to imagine that he would just pick a fight with one person, let alone two people. The facts just don't add up when it comes to these two defendants, and that video really does say a lot. So, I can't imagine, and it is very sad that this is happening in 2020, but the judicial system is supposed to be set up so that innocent people, this does not happen to them. It's also set up so that innocent people aren't charged with crimes. So if these two people really did not do this and truly had a reason, that should come out also in our system. But it certainly looks pretty bad for them right now, the two defendants.
Yeah. Roshini Rajkumar, executive coach, host here at News Talk 830 WCCO. You can hear her on Sunday, Real Talk with Roshini. Thanks so much. It's good to catch up. Thanks for your insight.
All right. Thanks, Cory. Have a great day.